You know what that is? You see that? That is a positive RAT. It's defined as a rapid antigen test. I say about these things. In South Australia, because that's where I live, rapid antigen tests are now used as a test to diagnose COVID-19. This means that if you test positive using a rapid antigen test, as in one of these, your result does not need to be confirmed with a PCR test. You must report a positive rapid antigen test result. Reporting your antigen test result assists with providing an understanding of cases in the community and also helps to identify if you are eligible, for COVID-19 treatments. Now, why I'm talking about this test, as you can probably hear it in my voice, this test, there we go, focus on it. This test's mine. Yep. G'day. I'm Bouncer. Welcome to the top of the world. Down under, Australia, South Australia, Adelaide, McLaren Vale. I'm Bouncer. And I'm recovering from COVID-19. And just to make sure that you're not too upset about it, look, right, there's the other one. That's my day 7. I'm in day 12 now. And as you can hear, my voice isn't still 100%, and I'm still quite tired, but I'll get to that. That's my day 7 RAT. My day 7 rapid antigen test. So don't call it a RAT test, because otherwise you're calling it a rapid antigen test. But everybody calls them RAT tests anyway. When I was in hospital with a motorcycle accident, I had these every day. 2.5 weeks of them. No, almost 4 weeks of them twice. 2 weeks twice. Up your nose. If you've ever had one, you know what I mean. 5 seconds up this nostril, 5 seconds up that nostril. I swear, I honestly feel like I'm going to sneeze my brains out my left or right nostril after they did those things. Anyhow, as you can hear, I'm still a little bit stuffed up too. And I'm in my nightshirt. I'm not even in my Bouncer t-shirt because, hey, I'm sick. I couldn't be bothered. Sue me. Not that too many people watching these videos anyway. Nobody comments about it, so nobody's going to say anything. I'll put a picture up. Yeah, okay, here we go. The nightshirt is this one. And the link from where you can buy them, if you're a big fella in Australia or anywhere else in the world, I will leave in the description below too, because they're very good, they're very comfortable, and there's something the old fellas from last century had that we didn't. The younger ones don't know. Nightshirts are unbelievably comfortable to sleep in. They really are. They're great. Or maybe I'm just getting old. I'm 54 after all. Anyhow, what's today about? Today's talk is about the demon COVID-19. The demon COVID-19, yeah. That's why I called this chat that. Because I realised something after I'd caught this virus and been through it. And that is that I had actually made it a demon in my mind. A really big demon. I mean, I haven't caught COVID before. This was my first time. Since 2019, almost 3 years, I've managed to avoid COVID. Okay, sure, 3 lockdowns and everything else. But even now that it's rampant through Australian society and the Omicron is mutated now twice again. And this is the big wave that we're getting hit now. And we're going to get a wave through the Australian summer, which is through the northern continent's winter. We're going to have it slamming through everywhere. I know of 3 friends that have caught it in the last week. So it's really, really rampant and really, really happening. And I wanted to tell you all about my experience of it. because I have two things that I think no people really, really talk about. One of them is my father, who's 91, lives with us here. And he has lung problems due to working in a factory for many years, mixing powdered chemicals and making them into car parts. Without respirators, because you don't, in the 1960s and 70s, respirators were for wimps. So you never wore respirators. My dad was a supervisor of a sintering section where they used to mix the powders in the back end of it. He used to walk in there chatting with the powder monkeys whenever something came up. That's what they were called, powder monkeys. Without remotely anything, not even a handkerchief over his mouth. So, many, many years. So he's breathing now. He's got COPD. So when the COVID thing came and the lockdown came and all of the older people had, I just had a Facebook message from my wife, but I'll get to that later. All of the older people in Victoria and Melbourne, when the old age homes were dying because it had got in there and they were just dropping like flies, I was terrified. Honestly, I was mortified. I didn't know. All I could think of, I've got to protect Dad. I've got to protect Dad. I've got to protect Dad. That was even before he moved in with us. That was getting sanitised and everything else. I must admit, while he wasn't living with us, I did get him to get really obsessive about it, almost, to a point where he irritated people with his insistence that they should sanitise. But I don't make any apologies for that. Not one iota. Earl Grey tea just helps my throat. And I've discovered that I'm not good on coffee. Yes, coffee requires me to run to the toilet nowadays a lot. So I don't do that. I've changed to tea. Anyway, so when Dad moved in, the fear, and we were already past the lockdowns and everything else at that point, the fear of COVID just kept growing in me, and I made sure that he was masked, and I made sure that I was masked, and everything was fine. And 2 weeks ago, Dad went out with his carer to a local shopping centre. Well, not quite a local one a little further away. And he came home and it was all good. And then a few days later, I start hearing this cough. And lo and behold, he starts coughing more and more. And we thought, oh, great, he's got the flu. Excellent. Well, with his lung condition, we thought, well, off to the doctor, get him a GP's appointment. Well, the earliest one we could get him was actually the one from last Friday, where we were all going down to see our GP anyway. I thought, okay, well, we'll watch it. If anything gets really bad, we're straight off to hospital. And of course, to see the GP still then, you needed to have a negative, clear PCR test. Now that's the more accurate test, they say. PCR test, this is what the SA Health government website says about them. PCR testing is available if you have any COVID-19 symptoms. You should stay at home until you receive a negative COVID-19 test result. If you have COVID-19 symptoms and test negative, stay at home until you are well. Well, that's given anyway. I mean, if you're feeling sick, stay home. Simple. Anyhow, we bundled Dad into the carer's car, and on the next Monday, he had, and off they went, and they got him a PCR. PCR took them 3.5 hours to find because one of the drive-through places near us closed before they got there. They were 5 minutes late. And by the time they find one anyway, yeah, it's fine. He said, blah, blah, come home. It's all good. He's tired. Sleeps in his chair. It's fine. I started feeling a little bit sort of worn out, a little bit fluey that afternoon into that evening. I'm thinking, I'm betting I've got it too. And I already knew in my head right back here, I knew that it was that it was COVID. So the test, his test, I get the, because I got him to put my mobile phone on the test, because dealing with Dad and his mobile, I can't see it anymore, so it's not that easy to deal with. Sure enough, beep beep, first thing in the morning, there he is. Yeah, you are tested for positive. Okay, tested positive for COVID. So I thought, all right, well, I'm starting to wake up and I felt really lousy, just off, tired and sick and horrid. And that was Tuesday morning, so I took myself off and had a PCR as well. And sure enough, bang, I get the text back later that day after having done this one myself. Now, for users that haven't done these ones, you put, as I described it, it gets this little, like a cotton bud that comes with a test. You stick it up really far up your nose, both nostrils, swizzle it around for about 5 seconds each. Then you put that in a sterile solution in another little tube that you get, and then you swizzle that around, and then you drip it into there. You see? Into there. The water that comes out gets dripped into there. And what happens is it wicks. The water wicks up through that material that's inside, and if it reacts and comes up with 2 lines like this one did, when I did it on that Tuesday, before getting my results back from my PCR, that says positive. So then you go, oh, and you really, really, really want to wish that you got one of these. That's the same process, and that's what a negative one looks like. I'm not sure if anybody's ever put one of those on YouTube before, but there you go, there they are. That one I did 6 days after I did the previous one. And then I went and got a PCR on the 7th day anyway, just to make on the safe side. So anyway, where do I go? Back to the story. I get, sure enough, as the day progresses, I get sicker and sicker, and I feel worse and worse and worse. And then really, I describe it like getting hit by a bus. It was horrid. It was just the worst sort of feeling of influenza symptoms. I didn't get the pain in the head, but I was very blocked nose, coughing, and just generally awful feeling. And so tired, like unbelievably tired. So I put myself to bed, and sure, there we go. That night, because I got the test early in the morning, well, pre-lunch, so I got the text going, yep, you're positive too. Good, here we go. So then the next thing became, because my father and I are both in what they call the high-risk category, Dad because of his age and his breathing, and me because of my diabetes and my heart problems that you would have seen if you would have known all about if you would have watched an earlier video. Go back and have a look at the one that's before this one. I got onto my GP straight away, and they made sure that he called me back by the end of the day, and we are entitled to subsidised antiviral medication from the government because I'm a pensioner and so's Dad. So, thankfully, we managed to get antivirals prescribed to us. Now, these antivirals are quite expensive, so most chemists don't actually keep them on the shelf, so I needed to wait a day. And that was Wednesday, and the Wednesday, oh boy, the Wednesday was something else. Not because of the physical symptoms. The symptoms were strange. My voice was gone. It's still gone. But there was no pain here, right? No redness, no burning in the throat. There's no actual infection in the throat. It's affected the vocal cords. Full of, nose was all blocked up, coughing and feeling terribly horrible. But there was one thing else. One thing that I have never experienced before with any other virus, and I told it can happen with viruses, but it definitely happens with COVID-19. And that is, I started to feel amazingly depressed. Okay, I suffer from depression. I've said that. I'm on medication for that. I also suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. That Wednesday, every single one of my static sit-alone triggers went off. I was crying, I was sad, I was thinking about our dogs that we recently had to be put down, and I was wailing with tears. We lost both of our dogs recently. Both of them went with cancer within a couple of months of each other. Wolfhound greyhounds, they both had a good run. Gypsy was 11, Shadow was 13. So, but anything that I thought about, it was instantly to the negative and instantly so depressive. So much so that I'm really 100% convinced that if I was on my own experiencing this, without being able to think my way through it, I was that sick that I couldn't think, and memory was horrible. Memory is not good anyway, but it was even worse. You could almost drop into suicidalness. You really could. You could almost drop into being suicidal because of the emotional ringer that this virus put me through. I'd never experienced anything like it, like I said. Anyway, so that Wednesday night, we got my hands on the antivirals. We managed to order them on the Tuesday. So on the Wednesday night, we got our hands on the antivirals, and I went to sleep. Oh boy, did I go to sleep. I slept solidly for 6 hours. I haven't slept solidly for 6 hours since, I don't know, I was 14, 13. That's another story. We're not talking about that now. I wake up feeling so much better. I'd say the whole sickness part of it, the whole worn out stuff was just, that was that bad on the Wednesday. It was gone by half. And the Thursday was better, and the Friday was better again. Now, the other thing that we were doing that South Australia offers here, I'm not sure if the other states in Australia do, was SA Health offer for you, if you voluntarily want to subscribe to a nursing support system where they drop off a support kit which contains an oxygen, blood oxygen tester, one of those things you put on your finger, like you put your finger like that. And it tells you what your pulse is and tells you what your oxygen saturation is. They also had a blood pressure machine and a thermometer, an electronic thermometer you can put on your forehead for testing that. Push the button, and it all interfaces with a Samsung tablet that has Bluetooth capability that records all of this stuff. It walks you through it, and then you push the send button and it sends it off to the central area. It's Big Brother. I'm not getting into the politics of it. I'm not interested. Do you want to comment about that? Go for your life. I'm not going to answer it because I don't. No, just not going there. And then a bit later on, what they do is a nurse calls you. And they chat about, your tests and how you're feeling and what you've noticed and everything else. And this is where I found out about the psychological stuff, that they had heard of this happening with people. They'd also heard that people with arthritis had their arthritis flare up. With people that have injuries, the injuries would flare. And I noticed myself, my right leg swells due to my nerve damage and the damage in my knee from the accident. Swells quite a lot when I've had it down for a while. But it was swollen, and it was swollen for about 48 hours solid. And it just, without actually having it, I was laying in bed for all that time. It should have been reducing in size, not being swollen and tight. But it was. So it turns out that this COVID-19 virus, they call it the all-body virus, and they call it the all-body virus for a reason, because it triggers, or it can trigger, everything, absolutely everything. Slightest malady you might have, bang, off it goes. You're lucky if that doesn't happen, right? If you're predisposed to migraines, I reckon, man, you would have the biggest, nastiest migraines you could ever imagine with this virus. It's everywhere, and it gets in everywhere. That was my demon concern. I discovered, as I was thinking about this, and as I realised how this virus had triggered my my fears and everything else and my depressions and emotions, that one thing else that I'd done is I had turned this virus into such a demon in my mind that I was terrified of catching it. I mean, we'd done all the right things, right? We got our vaccinations and we got our boosters. We're all four boosters, 2 boosters and 2 vaccinations in Australia. They're all done. Dad has them, my wife has them, I have them, everybody else has them. We're all good here. We did everything we had to do to make ourselves safe. And the symptoms, I must say, in my father were, from what he told me and what I could observe, moderately reduced breathing capability, thankfully. With COPD, there was nothing else. He had a phlegmy cough and a blocked nose, and that was that. And it was there for about 7 days. And they were about my symptoms too, except for the psychological stuff. It turns out that for me, the worst thing in this thing was all of the triggers that this blasted virus set off in me. Wasn't prepared for that. The demon in my mind was built up by the situations that happened in Victoria. We didn't get it here in South Australia, but all the states in Australia locked down and everything else. And in Victoria, the virus got into old age homes and just started killing old people. And my dad wasn't living with us at that stage. He only came to move in later, after all the lockdown thing was finished, for various other reasons. But I had such a terrible, terrible fear because my mother died when I was 13, Dad's the only guy I've got left. The only link to my family here in Australia I have. He's 91, and I realise, there ain't going to be that many more years with him. And I want to savour every single one I've got. Now that he's been living with us for this year and a half, over a year, I've talked with him about things and heard stories from about our family and about his life and the war and growing up in Germany after the war as a refugee that I hadn't heard before, that he hadn't told before. I wouldn't have this just over a year. I mean, if I want another one, I should say, I wouldn't give it back. Not for all the tea in China. It's been wonderful. I think I'm still afraid of the demon that's going to take my dad eventually. I'm pretty sure I am. Well, this one isn't the one that's going to do it. I'd convinced myself it was. But one thing's for sure. He's not going into a shopping centre without a mask on ever again. I'm sure of that. And I don't care what it looks like. I'm not going into tight public spaces without a mask either, because believe me, all right, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. My throat's still going. I'm still tired. But I don't care what a mask looks like. Okay, I don't want this again. If you want to catch COVID again, and I'm told that the most immunity you get from COVID is after you've had it, is about 14 days after you've had it, and then you can catch it again. Some say less than that. I don't want it again, thanks. I'll take to 3.5 years before the next time I catch it, and then it'll just be a sniffle and go, poo. Oh, well, take my COVID inoculation like the flu inoculation every year, and that'll be that. That's the next time I want to catch COVID, thank you. Oh, one more thing. It makes you tired. Made me tired. I thought that I was able to sort of jump back into what I was doing. See, yesterday, Saturday, our show motorcycle, Black Bess, I'll leave a link for her in the description down below too. She was booked into a show and shine, a really flash one. Really flash one. Down here at, for those of you Aussies who remember, a guy called Kevin Bloody Wilson, you'll know what I just referenced there. Living next door to Alan. Gosh, I'm getting old. I was ready to go. I even had the helpers here, and they come up early, and it was all good. I was going to write it down, and the guys were going to take all the display stuff in the car, and it was going to be a great day. Park her up, and because the weather was pretty lousy yesterday, it's pretty lousy today too. Lots of rain and stuff. I thought there won't be that many people there. She have a good chance of winning. She's a pretty cool bike. So I rode out of the driveway and down to the end of the street, and I turned left, and my right leg slipped off the foot peg, which it does from time to time. My right leg's my damaged leg. I can't use that leg on the brakes. I basically use front brakes and gears to stop with my left leg. I tried to pick it back up, and I couldn't. It took me 3 goes to put my leg back up on the foot peg. Now that's at the end of a day when I've been out all day, and I'm sitting all day, but I've been out at a show. That's when I'm tired. That's when that happens. It doesn't happen first thing in the morning at 7:30 when I'm leaving home after having a really, really good night's rest. It's just unheard of. So what could it be? Well, tiredness. Could only be one thing, couldn't it? This blasted COVID. So there you go. That was day 11. Day 11 and I'm still tired. Day 12 and I'm still tired, and my voice is still playing up. Hopefully this will clear up, because I've got an idea for a podcast that I want to do as part of the Bouncer Chats channel here. I want to start reading classic literature. I've got a very nice voice when it doesn't sound like it's a raspy sandpapery thing like you hear now. So what do you reckon? Somebody make a comment. Nobody's commented yet. What do you think I should do? Should I do classic literature? Should I read classic stories? Set up a nice set somewhere else other than this little bolt hole that I'm using here. Now that I've got the new camera set up. What do you think of the new camera setup? This new camera. Oh, and here's another thing. Look at that. See that down there? Where are we? There. That's my Twitter handle. My new brand spanking new Twitter handle. Bouncer in Oz. I'm the only one apparently. Nobody else has thought of being a bouncer in Oz, in Australia. And Twitter's back up and running there. After Mr. Musk has just taken it over, everybody had something to say about that, didn't they? Oh well, Elon, you will learn. Some people, group negotiation, there's something to be said for it. Well, something to be said for being a billionaire too, I guess. Anyhow, so the new camera's there. Oh, this is what I want to talk about today. I'm almost done with it. The demon COVID-19. It's not that bad. It's survivable. It's dealable. If you can get yourself antiviral medication, thankfully we have them for people that are in the high-risk groups in our country. Our government supplies them for us, pays for them. We only have a little co-payment to pay. They're a godsend. So if you're thinking about antivirals, go for it. If you can't afford them, well, I'm sorry. That's unfortunate. Maybe you should vote for a government that will support you in your purchase of medications rather than one that sits there and rips the dollars out of your pocket and gives them to the rich people. That's another chat. Not now. Key is rest. The demon's not that bad, but as I've discovered, I'm coming up to 14 days now, and I'm still not 100%. Hopefully this doesn't develop into long COVID, because I tell you, I really want my voice back. Okay? I've got a nice voice. It's one of the few things that I have left that still functions in some way, shape or form, and that I can use. So I'd really like my voice back, please. All right. Well, thanks for listening to me in this chat. Okay? Make a comment if you feel like it. I appreciate it. Please subscribe. Yeah, that'd help me a lot. Please subscribe and like the video. That way this thing might actually get up to off the bottom of the YouTube algorithm, and some other people might see it. Okay, so here's the 3 requests, right? 1, like the video. 2, subscribe. 3, it's not that much of a demon. Be kind to yourself. All right? Thanks for listening, and this little waffle on chat. Cheers. See you later next time.